G'day, it's Adam Hills here with a Mental Health Australia checkup, and today we're kind of cross-pollinating a little bit. We're talking to Michelle Terry, who's the CEO of Movember. Correct me if I've got any of that wrong.
Nope, that is right, and I am Michelle Terry.
Well, I guess, I've been chatting to comedians, I've been chatting to musicians, but now it's time to chat to someone who kind of should know what they're talking about to some degree.
To some degree, yep. I'll try my very best.
But listen, before we get on to the official stuff, how have you been dealing with lockdown?
Look, mixed, I think, like most people. I've got two little kids, so the homeschooling was a bit of a challenge. There's just suffice to say the whole family's pretty excited they're back at school. Fine, thank you. I think, I've developed a fine penchant for a Zoom dinner party and a Zoom meeting. And, I just try and get out and about and exercise, which makes it a little easier. But I am looking forward to the world opening up.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, the Zoom dinner parties and the Zoom meetings, because I made a joke to a friend of mine when all of this started that I think women are going to deal with this lockdown much better than men, because the women in my life that I knew were already from the get-go organising Zoom dinner parties, Zoom catch-ups with their mates, whereas most of the men I knew weren't really doing that. And I'm guilty of it. I had a couple of mates say, hey, should we have a bit of a Zoom chat? And I was like, yeah, we'll get around to it.
Yeah.
And I kind of made that as a joking observation, but from what I can tell, the statistics are actually bearing that out. Is that right?
Yeah. We did a survey recently in about 6 of our top markets around the world. And, what really struck me about that was that I think it was over half the men that we asked said that nobody had asked them how they were going in the time of COVID, which is, pretty stressful, I think. And, I know from my own mental health, just somebody simply reaching out through a text or a phone call or, going for a socially distanced walk is a thing that can make a massive difference, particularly if you're facing huge stresses in your life, which, face it for all of us, but, men definitely, things like job insecurity, unemployment, financial insecurity, relationship stress from being cooped up at home, the homeschooling piece, etc. These are all tough stuff to deal with. And, just having somebody reach out to you and, start a conversation with you can make a significant difference in terms of mental health.
And also, I think, is it fair to say that if you're a man and if you're a man who's struggling and if you're a man who feels uncomfortable saying to your mate, hey, I'm struggling, maybe a sneaky way around that is to ask your mate if he's okay, and then he'll ask you, and then you can open up.
Yeah, that's right. And we've just released a mental health tool, which is an online tool actually designed first for mobile to try and help. It's called Movember Conversations. You can go to movember.com conversations and find it there. And what we did to create it essentially was identify some scenarios by asking real men what was going on in their lives that they were finding stressful. So it's almost like a gamified version of building up a conversational muscle. So, if your mate, you asked your mate how he was going and he kind of put you off somehow, what kind of entrees you might have to open up the conversation to actually get that flowing. So, it's a really helpful tool. And so far, the people who've experienced it, are giving us good feedback on how it can help with those conversations and those awkward moments that you sometimes have to navigate through.
And do you find that happens a bit more often with men where you almost have to, it's like, I don't know, I'm kind of thinking like with kids where you have to hide the medicine inside something sweet. When you're talking about men and mental health, you kind of have to almost hide it inside, as you say, an app that looks like a game or kind of something that looks like a sports project that's also designed for mental health.
Yeah, look, I think it helps because I guess men have been socialised into maybe not having so many face-to-face conversations like women have been given, I guess, the permission to do over time. And I think it's really interesting you picked up on that Zoom culture that women might have naturally fallen into because it's a face-to-face tool. Like we're sitting here talking face-to-face and that feels quite natural. Yeah. Whereas men generally talk a bit shoulder to shoulder. So, they go to the pub or they're at a gig or they're at the sport, and that's when they, swap stories of their life or how they're feeling in a much more side-to-side way. So I think, the lack of opportunity to do that in COVID has made it harder, which is why, we're hoping tools like this and tips like this can help.
I'm going to put it out there. Do you think there's an app that blokes can join where they can watch a sporting event together, not have to look at each other and put your phone to one side so that you can have that conversation?
I'm certain somebody's invented it out there. Yeah, let's find it.
So listen, Movember.com is where people can go for the information. The app, what's the name of the app?
It's called Movember Conversations.
Right. And listen, is there a weird thing, you know, when you see like, I don't know, say a professional chef, but then they're at home and they're just like, oh man, I couldn't be bothered doing all the fancy stuff tonight. Do you find that when you deal with mental health and men's mental health in particular, are there moments at home where you think, I mean, I know what I should be doing right now?
Well, I try to give my husband the benefit of being, you know, a nice and open partner, but, you know, you would have to ask him. But yeah, that could be a fair call.
Well, listen, it's good to know that it happens all around. Hey, thank you so much for having a chat. I found it absolutely fascinating, the way that men and women are dealing with all of this lockdown differently. And like I said, if anyone's got that app that you can just put your mate alongside you and watch the football together, I'm happy to endorse it.
My pleasure, and thanks so much for the opportunity, Adam.
Thanks, Michelle. Look after your mental health, Australia.